Okay, I have about as much to say as James does, but I won't, because Justin Burnham is awesome, and he has like a really wide perspective of the game industry. Part of the things we're doing at Lunchbox is to give you guys all the different various aspects of where you can join in to the game industry. So Justin was like helping some of our kids from Collide a lot, because you know, it's launching a game. The industry is what it's all about. So Justin, give it a.
So I'm going to give you a couple disclaimers. One, I am not prepared at all. Just going to be honest. I'm very honest. Okay? I'm going to be honest. And actually, I figured you relate to that. I've had a very busy month, which I'll explain. I knew I was doing this. It was on my calendar. I've known Cammie for some time, but as soon as I explain, you'll totally get it. I kind of get around and I'm everywhere, and August I had was ridiculous. The other disclaimer is I speak all the time on sessions, Casual Connect, San Diego Comic-Con, stuff like that, but I usually don't have the floor for a full 45 minutes to an hour myself. I'm usually like moderators here asking me questions, and I'm with other people. So if I get boring or you're sick of hearing me, just throw something at me or do whatever you want. Be sure it's something like a napkin, though, not heavy. And then the last disclaimer, which honestly I feel is most important, and I wish more people in the game industry could say this, is I am an actual real gamer. I am 37. I've been gaming since I was 7. I have every single system at my house. I have every virtual reality headset at my house. I have 3,000 games at my house. Some aren't released yet.
What?
Yeah, we'll get to that. This week alone, I bought Escapist 2, Everybody's Golf, Destiny 2, and what the hell did I just buy? I buy a lot. There was another one, Knack 2, because they've improved Knack 2 over Knack 1. You know, so there's validity to that, and that's important, because that means we are driven by passion, not just by work. So one of the things I want to talk about, you get tips and tricks all the time. That's great. That's fantastic. I can give you those too, and I'm going to give you those probably either in this conversation or afterwards. It's not a problem, but I'm going to give you also kind of like my road to who I am and why I'm doing all the things that I'm doing and all the trials and tribulations I ran across. Some you might run across, some you won't. So back in 2007, some are you know 2007, right? I mean, how old, what's the average age of this crowd? Okay, fine. Just pretend you know what I'm talking about. Back in 2007, there was a big real estate crash, stock, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Your families might have been through it. Okay, so picture me in a business suit and tie. That's what I did. I was real estate, stock, private investments, IPs, all that kind of stuff. I was lots of zeros, contracts. I was in Vegas probably once a month because that's where the money was, all that. So market crashed, 2007. And I was left basically with kind of a decision, do I reinvent myself or do I rebuild the same actual area I was in? And background to that is I have full sail degrees, which is how I know Cammie, project management certification, Scrum certification, all those kind of things. And I was like, you know what, forget it. How painful is it to do everything you did? And you did it for the money. And then all of a sudden you realize you have to reinvent yourself. Do you want to do that again, or do you want to do what you love? So I went into the game industry in 2007, never looked back. It was very, very hard. Changing industries is hard, period. Try doing that during what is almost another depression. That's 10 times harder. So I literally sent out emails after emails. Probably for every 10 emails, I got 1 or 2 people that would humor me for lunch. I knew no one. That was tough. So finally, in 2007, I got my first gig, and that started it all. I went from knowing no one to knowing everyone. How many of you are familiar with Dice Summit? You should all be familiar with Dice Summit. It's very important. Dice Summit? Are you familiar? Okay, so Dice Summit is a newer kind of element. It is, but if you're familiar with the Oscars, the only difference is Oscars has been around for about, 80 years? And they have a $75 million plus budget. Dice Summit has been around since mid-90s, early 90s, and has like a $2 million budget. Point being is, Dice Summit is trying and going to be the next Oscars. That is what it really is. So it's important to the industry that it actually grows. So that was my first job, because I knew it would be really important for me to meet everyone I can, and meet everyone I did. So I was there for about 2 years, which is the Calabasas area. So I literally was right next to Dash, which was the worst part of the job. Anyone familiar with the Dash store? Know what I'm talking about? Kim Kardashian's store? Yes, that was the worst part of the job. But other than that, the job was great. I met everyone. It was a fantastic show. If you haven't been to Dice Summit, you should go, especially if you want to meet people. It's fantastic. Yeah. Dice, D-I-C-E, not to be confused with the developers of Battlefield or Battlefront. Dice Summit, S-U-M-M-I-T.
Design, innovate, communicate, entertain, D-I-C-E.
It's in Vegas, so there's a lot of reasons you should go. It's not the cheapest thing, but it's still, it's a boutique event. It's around 700-800 people, and it's the who's who. It really is. So I knew that going in, so I got that job. I got sick of California. California is expensive. Everyone, that's not a big secret. So after 2 years of doing that, I had 2 offers on my plate. One was to, how many are you familiar with South by Southwest? Okay. So one was I had an opportunity to, basically, South by Southwest is made up of music, interactive, and film. They wanted someone to create gaming. Okay, and the other opportunity I had on my lap is 38 Studios. How many remember 38 Studios? Kingdoms of Amalur. You know, actually a really good game if you haven't played it. So I had 2 positions on my lap. 1, producer at 38 Studios. 2, I could be basically the founder of South by Southwest Gaming. For all that know 38 Studios, if I would have took that job, a couple things. 1, it's a producer. I'm not leaving my mark. I just left Dice Summit, where I met everybody of everybody. I still need to leave my mark, because remember this, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. Remember that. That's super important, no matter who teaches you what. That's important. So it's 38 Studios. 3 months later, moved from Massachusetts, where I'm actually from. I'm from Salem, Massachusetts. Another cool factor, Salem, Massachusetts. How many people do you meet from Salem? Witches, all that kind of stuff. So, in other words, yes, I'll be going to see It this weekend, opening day. So 38 Studios, it was a fantastic, they had a great potential, talented team. Todd McFarlane was involved, Kurt Schilling, Jen McClain, some great people there. But 3 months later, they moved to Rhode Island, right? Rhode Island? Or Rhode Island, I think it was Rhode Island, New Hampshire, one of the two. And then 3 months after that, they had to close the door because they were $75 million in debt. No one really knows why, mismanagement of money, all that kind of stuff. So if I would have took that job, not only would I have been a producer and, you know what, just one of the many producers out there, which is great, nothing against that, but I'm not leaving my mark, I would have also been in a lot of trouble 6 months later. So I took the South by Southwest job. South by Southwest, I mean, basically, no matter how long I stayed, if I was successful, no one can take away the fact that I started it. It's done. You've left your mark. You can't do anything about that. That's important. That's crucial. Innovating, doing all these things, leaving your mark is crucial. So, lo and behold, I would actually find myself there for 7 years. I grew it into a actual, right now, this past year is when I just left, it was at 75,000 people. It was over $1 million event, and it became a permanent staple within South by Southwest. So I successfully grew it in the time I did. I wrote indie programs, I wrote student programs, I wrote gaming pitch programs, I wrote all these things. And in that 7 years, I would always try to be involved in other ways. So I worked for Critical Mass Interactive, I worked for other companies being lead QA, all these various companies in Austin, Texas. So I was involved trying to be the jackknife, trying to be one of the few rare people that can actually say, I was an event producer, I was a developer, I was a publisher. Not many people can say that, and it adds value, it leaves your mark, and all these things. So I worked for all these different companies. I mean, I can talk about it now because it's NDA is way past, but we were working on a Boondock Saints game. I mean, we were working on all tons of different things that kept me involved on the development scene and the publishing scene while leading an innovative new event that was actually going to have all these programs and these things. So sometime during that building up the developer and publisher background, and around 2000, God, what year is it now? 2007. So 2012, I joined, are you familiar with Devolver Digital? Yes. Yes, I figured most of you would be familiar with Devolver Digital. So I joined Devolver Digital in 2012. I joined both sides. I don't know if you're familiar, but Devolver Digital also has a film side. So I joined the film side, and I joined the game side. Games, self-explanatory, Hotline Miami, Shadow Warrior, Enter the Gungeon, all these various things, kind of making a staple in, I would say, the rockstar games of the indie scene, with its edgy kind of approach and risk-taking, interesting things we will do. And then, so Devolver Digital basically was my first foray into this more, I would say, the more bigger titles, the more ambitious titles, the more fun titles. So I kept Devolver Digital full-time, and then South by Southwest Gaming full-time. I actually worked both of those full-time. And, just building those to just recently. Now, recently, how have you guys heard of Good Shepherd? If you're at PAX, you might have, but otherwise you might not have anymore. Okay, so I'll explain. This is one of the most interesting things. This is where it actually gets a lot of confusing. So, I was at Devolver for 5 years. They had another company, a sister company, if you will, called Gambitious. Gambitious was another publishing arm that we kind of had a clean slate on and investors on. You could be there was two kind of ways to fund your game. One, it was through kind of a, I would say, indie go-go Kickstarter-esque kind of way where we had a lot of investors. We have a big investor pool. Or if that didn't work and they weren't interested in some of those and the actual people that worked for Gambitious were, we would fund it through a normal, traditional publishing model. Gambitious is owned by Devolver. So as time grew on, I actually phased out of Devolver and worked full-time for Gambitious instead. Now, Gambitious has been growing phenomenally. We're trying to actually diversify with our portfolio. We don't want just indies. We want indies. We want what I call AAA. All these different things in between. We've done anything from Transport Fever to Hard West to Zero Drifter with all these various types of levels of budgets and games. Anything from a $50,000, $80,000 investment on up to much, much bigger than that. So due to the success of Gambitious and the potential of Gambitious, due to the investor pool it had and the potential that it actually had, we wanted to rebrand into another name, a more marketable name. None of us actually dug the name Gambitious, to be quite honest with you. It was hard to market, it wasn't really catchy, we didn't really understand why we even came up with it. So just recently, we actually announced the fact that Gambitious is now Good Shepherd. This was been my August. So Devolver, I'm going to trace it back. Devolver, who's owned Gambitious, now changed Gambitious's name to Good Shepherd. And the difference being is, Good Shepherd is a marketable name, and it's what we do. We have the Devolver vibe in terms of we're partners. You don't work for us. We are all making the game together. We don't mess with your creative vision. We don't tell you to implement things that you shouldn't implement if it doesn't fit the creative vision that you had in the first place. We don't try to own your IP, none of that. But what made us different, more so, is that besides our nature of that kind of relationship, we're kind of shepherding the whole process. I'll look at, for example, the 3 things I'll ask for when I'm looking at a game. I'll ask for 3 things. I'll ask for a budget breakdown. And do not worry if someone asks you for that. It does not have to be exact. Seasoned person knows the budget is going to fluctuate along with release date and stuff like that. But 3 key things when you're pitching a game that we look for is a budget breakdown, a game design document. We want to know what's cool about it. Tell us, all that kind of stuff. And some kind of build. Again, if you're dealing with the seasoned people, gamers and people that have been around for a while, not someone that jumped from Harley-Davidson marketing over here, business development over here, and then jumped here. Real people that are seasoned and know the gaming industry, they'll know if you gave them a vertical slice, they'll know what they should be seeing. One of the funniest things I heard from an indie, and I won't name any names, at E3 they met with a bigger company, and he presented the build, and their response, no joke, was, "Why are you showing me a game that's not done yet?" I mean, that's alarms. That you should know that when you're in conversation. Look for people that actually can speak your language. They understand the vertical slice. They understand the pre-alpha phase. They understand all these things. So since we have that kind of relationship with Good Shepherd, one of the things we also wanted to do is we basically dove into giving more to developers. So we do localization. We do QA. Some people are starting to do that now as publishers, which is good. They should. Because it's a vested interest in their product. It shouldn't just be the developers handling that. But now we are diving into the world of, because we have a lot of contacts, a lot of big contacts in this world. We're diving into the world of supplying writers and music and composers. Because you as programmers, artists, and all these other people within these development communities, if you actually are out there making your game, that's some of the hardest stuff to nail down. Who's the writer? How good is the writer? Who's the composer? How good is the composer? Those things are distractions in some way when you have your artist, your programmer, and all the other stuff that are focusing on the functionality of the game, the design of the game, and all these things. And they have to kind of babysit these other areas that aren't usually part of the core team sometimes. And with our contacts, we kind of started to provide that now. So we figured it was a good time to kind of unveil a new company. So we unveiled a new company, which was my August. We turned it from Gambitious to Good Shepherd. We had a 40 by 40 booth upstairs on the 6th floor and a 20 by 20 booth upstairs on the 6th floor. If you went to PAX and you went to the 6th floor, you kind of couldn't miss the big missile silo. And if you did, there's a problem. If you did, you were staring at that screen way too long, because that was us. So we unveiled the new name, we unveiled our big booth, we unveiled games. Our games that we unveiled were Millenor, Outreach, Machiavellian, Phantom Doctrine, and Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. So those are all our games that we unveiled with new booth, with a new name, with new things that we're adding, such as composing and writing. So my month, part of my month, I'm not even done with August, consisted of rebranding the name and all the things that go with that. Servers, email changes, all those things. Getting ready for Gamescom. I almost said XCOM. Jeez. Gamescom. You have Gamescom. You have PAX. Okay. All that stuff keeps me busy quite a bit in August. Now, you take on the fact that, remember when I said I usually like having 2 full-time jobs? So, I also left South by Southwest recently. How many are you familiar with DreamHack? DreamHack is probably the biggest esports company in the world. So DreamHack is massive in Europe. Second event really to only Gamescom in terms of size and scope. Now, a lot of people say if you watch video gaming on a computer, they're either watching YouTube, Twitch, or what they usually will say is DHTV. DHTV is DreamHack TV. So, I spoke with DreamHack, and they gave me an interesting vision of what they wanted, and I jumped ship, and I am now creative director of North America for all of DreamHack. So, DreamHack is coming to North America in a very, very big way. We're trying to strategize what cities we want. We're testing cities, like we're in Denver in 2 months. We don't, whether we'll be in Denver or not, we don't know yet in the following year, because these are all just tests. But basically, we sat down, me, the CEO, and some others, and we sat down and said, okay, there's plenty of events around, but are any of them innovating? In all honesty, are any of them innovating? Are any of them saying we are more than a show floor, we are more than panels? And most of them aren't, which is a shame, because, so that's kind of what I was doing with South by Southwest and why it was growing so quick. So we all got together and agreed the vision is innovating, taking a show floor and taking panels, which is great, but adding all these other areas that you kind of miss if you're new to gaming, or you might just appreciate a little more than this. So the DreamHack is coming over to North America, and we're going to bring more than just esports and PC gaming. So I had to write programs, that's what this month was, and debut our website on DreamHack side too, and all that kind of stuff. So what I had to write was, I wrote an indie gaming program, I wrote a student showcase program, I wrote a gaming pitch competition, I wrote an art gallery program where you can submit concept art based on a game you worked on and actually can tour around DreamHack and all these different things. I'm working with, how many of you are familiar with Game Jolt? I figured most of you would be familiar. Okay, so we have a partnership with Game Jolt that we're going to actually start working on game jams on, and they're international game jams. For example, we might do an announcement in a week or two, hint, hint, where we will do a game jam, and anyone that actually submits the game to the game jam, Game Jolt will bring their game and have it be like on display actually at the next DreamHack. The art zone, for example, I gave you an example of the art gallery. The student showcase, for example, is perfect for you guys. I mean, it's to kind of highlight student games and the awesomeness that can come, because a lot of people don't know, like, the games you might be working on for your final design could very well be a spiritual successor in some way later. Who's to say it's not? No different than a game jam. At Devolver, we actually looked at game jam games and made them full games. It's kind of like what people do, and you can do that with a student game too. Anyone play Titan Souls here? Devolver? Okay, Titan Souls was a game jam game, made into a full game. Anyone familiar with the movie? I'm going off a little bit. Napoleon Dynamite? Guess what? That was a short film. That was a short film first. Studio came and said, hey, let's make this into a big film. So the idea is to actually do these at DreamHacks and show this. Student games, all these things. Another thing that might actually interest you too, besides the student game showcase, is the gaming pitch competition. I wrote this honestly out of my frustration of seeing so many gaming pitches, and typically what you have, and you may be even learning it here, typically what you have is you have a fantastic build and a really, really bad business plan and a bad design document or a bad breakdown to where you're way off. Or this is great and your build is just not relaying the vision. That first impression is super important, because even if you come back with the second build 6 months later, 8 months later, 10 months later, the publisher will still go, oh, but all these other builds I haven't seen yet are more important right now, because we've already said no to this. So out of my frustration with that kind of learning process, I wrote a gaming pitch competition, which it's like Shark Tank, but we're not going to sign you at the end of the day. It's just, kind of giving you advice from people from the industry, such as myself and many others, to kind of tailor everything. And you do win accolades in terms of prize and actual trophy and all that kind of stuff, which is actually cool because you can add that to your program. You can add that to your game design document, stuff like that. So you see where I'm going with this. We're trying to bring DreamHack over here and innovate. And of course, we're still doing the same stuff, like we announced a $75,000 championship for Quake Champions. So we're still doing a lot of that stuff too. So that was my August, and that's who I am right now. My August was Good Shepherd, working with the team to redesign that kind of awesome caretaker vibe of where we want to go for developers, for teams, for indies. Getting Gamescom ready, getting PAX ready, all those various things. August was also planning the cities for 2018 to 2021, because DreamHack's coming big. I can't even tell you some of the stuff that we're going to be doing next year and beyond. And launching the DreamHack Denver site, for example. DreamHack Denver site, if you go to it, it'll tease some of the stuff that we're doing. You'll see new activities that probably has never been in a DreamHack ever. And actually, it's probably most at a lot of cons. It's not, unfortunately. So that's been my August, and that was the long story of my path, everything I've done, which is a lot. But I love this industry. I love it. It's where we're in a few industries where you can be as creative as you want to be. It's one of the few industries where I can go up to someone at PAX and be like, I played 98 hours of Witcher 3. Oh, I did too. We're all of a sudden best friends. I mean, there's not many people that can say that. And I really did play 98 hours of Witcher 3. I mean, that might be pale in comparison to some of you guys, but I have a lot to do. You broke 130? Oh, I couldn't do it.
I'm an obsessive completionist.
Oh, man, I can only, I don't have much time to sleep, let alone that. And I'm also, too, very approachable if anyone ever needs anything. Connect with me on LinkedIn, shoot me an email. I will get back to you, I promise, once my schedule is a little more manageable. But that's really it. People come up here all the time and give you life tips and tricks. I wanted to show you the reach that you could actually do, all the different things you can, and if you love it, it's never going to stop you, really. That's all I really wanted to say. Because, I switched industries, and like I said, went from knowing no one to knowing everyone. There are not many people I can't reach tomorrow if I need to. But it was hard. It was hard. So, but, I'm here to help, and other people are here to help too, as necessary. So, because I know how hard it was, and I do not want to put you through any of that. But I want to open up the rest. I might be early. I don't know.
No, that's good.
You're good.
But questions and transparent, honest, all that kind of stuff. It's nothing leaves behind this door, I think.
We're filming you.
Oh yeah, we're being filmed, so don't be so honest. Yeah, go ahead.
DreamHack coming to Seattle.
To be determined. The only city that right now is we can honestly say is permanent. I'm probably saying too much. Atlanta. We're looking at a lot of different things. Like right now, we're in Austin, Atlanta, Denver, Montreal, but we want more. We want to do more. It's ambitious. You'll see.
Justin, can you kind of repeat the questions?
Oh, yeah. His question, I'm sorry, was DreamHack coming to Seattle? So DreamHack's coming very ambitiously. Right now we're looking at 3 cities and more in Canada. There's not many places we're not going to be looking at. That's kind of why I joined the team. It was to take the DreamHack, innovate, add in elements of South by, add in elements of PAX, and I mean we have a screening program. We want to show films and short films and video content from YouTube. Now, disclaimer, we're not jumping the shark. I will never allow us to jump the shark. I will never, ever, ever put Mountain Dew behind me. And I'm very like that. Okay, anyone know the Jeff Keighley meme? Okay, no? Look up the internet and look up the Jeff Keighley meme. I know Jeff, I think he's great, but the Jeff Keighley meme had him do an interview, and you know, poor guy, he didn't mean anything by it. It was Doritos and Mountain Dew right behind him, and holy cow, on Reddit, no one let him live it down. But, and I understand, but we will never do that. So, like, for example, the films we'll actually show will be, you know, stuff that will fit in our vibe. We will not be showing American Beauty 2, Saving Private Ryan 2, you know, none of that stuff. It'll be, like I'm working on a tabletop movie that's coming out next year, which I think is super cool. You know, Dungeons and Dragons, all that kind of stuff. So, it's going to fit that vibe. We're doing a documentary about LARPing, which is actually from the very popular LARPing community in Canada that I know very well. So we're keeping it real. So.
Do you know when the next game pitch competition will be?
Yeah, it's in Denver. Well, can I promote?
Go.
Yeah? You all should sign up. That's all I'll tell you. No, I mean, no, we have, I mean, so we're launching a lot in Denver because this is our first year in the States. We want them to be awesome, right? So we are taking as many entries as possible, and we'll probably accept it if it's actually cool. So the game pitch and student showcase program that I'm talking about are open right now, and you can enter your game pitch or student game or both and actually go to DreamHack Denver once selected. It's open now, I think, for another 2-3 weeks, submissions. And DreamHack Denver, for reference, is at the end of October.
When preparing a pitch, you said to have a budget breakdown as well as a design document. Was there anything else that you should consider when making a pitch?
Well, I mean, honestly, the conversations will go, I mean, a contract process can be 6 to 8 weeks. So that's minimum. I mean, some people can take longer. But if it takes longer, you have to question then, you know, you get other offers. And actually his question was, is there anything in addition to a game design document and a budget breakdown that actually should be considered? Yes. So the trifecta I asked for is a build. I don't care where it is, a build. Vertical slice, pre-alpha, I've been around, I'm good. Just tell me what phase it is. Another one is game design doc and the budget breakdown. And a lot of times the budget breakdown is in the game design doc anyways, really. But those are the 3 things I'm looking for. And also, don't feel like it's a marriage proposal in terms of I'm holding you to the exact number and the exact release date. Come on, let's be real. I mean, does any game stick to an exact budget and exact release date? I don't know about it. Yeah, thank you. So those are the 3 things I'll look for. And then what happens is typically in a publishing just negotiation in general, they'll look at those things, they'll evaluate with the team. And we're a democracy team because we're all gamers. So we don't actually look at the business plan first. We look at the build and whether we like it. We're gamers. If we don't like the product, how the hell can we sign it and promote it? It's simple. It doesn't matter how awesome it might be. If we don't like it, it's not for us. And we're also very real in terms of we're a small team doing big things. If we have 3 games, we're signed on for the first quarter, 4 games, whatever, we can't take on anymore. I don't care if we like it. Because we'll fail us and we'll fail you. We'll say no. But a typical process is that, and then the publisher will get back to you saying, I like what you got so far, let's talk more. And then someone like me, or a producer, or both of us, because I dabble in production too, we'll get on the phone with you, and they'll be like, how real is this budget? Did you include lawyer fees? Did you include software fees? That's where we really, and in their budget, their breakdown is something maybe a Sony developer would actually charge us after 3 to 5 years of actually working on stuff. So their expectations aren't real. They shouldn't be asking for that high of a monthly rate. You see what I'm saying? And that's where the second conversation comes in. Well, I mean, if the publisher is interested, they'll come in and be like, on that second conversation with the producer, they'll be like, okay, do you realize you're asking for a Sony salary and you just graduated yesterday? You know? And, you know, it's good to be that honest, because a lot of times the developer isn't thinking back end, and they're thinking salary. So you have to think both. You have to think, all right, what am I going to make for salary to get the game to completion, and then what is my percentage after the game is released? You know, because you're going to make money on the back end, and if you're not, you have a really bad deal. But that's what you have to factor in. But there is no way to gauge it, because I saw a pixel game that was way more expensive than I thought the other day. And then I played it, and it wasn't actually the art or the aesthetic. It was actually a lot of the innovation and the actual gameplay designs in it. I would have never saw that if I didn't play it. You see my point? So it's hard to gauge it. I would say just do your homework and have a good benchmark comparison. You know what a benchmark comparison is? Basically know your genre, know your games that are in the area, get price ranges of what they're selling their product for, how many months, etc., etc., and that will give you a good price estimate.
Where do you go find out about that stuff?
There's tons of places. Like one is, oh my God, Steam Spy. Steam Spy, if anyone's familiar with Steam Spy, you can see, you can see general stuff, like how many units. He's asking how you find out some of the benchmark comparisons to run benchmark comparisons. So if you go to Steam Spy, you can see how many, like if you know the 4 games, the 5 games, whatever that you're comparable to, you have similarities of, all these various things. You can go to Steam Spy and just look at the units. You can look at all these various things. And also, I will say one thing, do not be afraid to reach out to the developer. Reaching out to a developer for that kind of guidance is much different than reaching out to the average publisher. The developers are creatives. Most of the time they'll work together. All our developers do. We had a blast working together at Good Shepherd over the weekend, and they all got along. I mean, and a lot of times what we'll do is, like, for example, this guy from this project, we're done, but this game is a roguelike, for example, that's releasing in a year. We'll put this guy together and introduce them so they can just give some tidbits of advice. It's really good. A lot of people will be helpful more than you think. Go ahead.
You said something about lawyer fees. What do I do with those for?
So he's asking about lawyer fees. Protect yourself, man. You know, talk to them about IP rights and all these other various things, because not everyone is as honest as Good Shepherd. It's just the way it is. You know, it's super. What's that?
Self-promotion?
Yeah. I mean, no. Well, yeah, kind of. I know we're good people. They're like my family, you know. But still, it's really a matter of protection. I've seen a lot of people burned in very, very badly. So consult with, I would probably say, an IP lawyer. Go ahead.
What would you say if somebody wanted to bring back couch sitting games like?
Yay!
Because
Yeah, I would play with my son.
Because me and my partner want to bring back sitting on the couch with family and play games.
Make sure it stands out, because a lot of people are trying to do that now. His question. He asked what I thought about the couch co-op and bringing that back. Honestly, in my opinion, there's a revival right now. You're in it. Now's the time to do it. Just make sure it stands out. I love Nidhogg. Nidhogg?
Yeah.
See, there we go. Okay. Towerfall?
Yeah.
See, I told you I knew my stuff. And they're actually, like, Mark from Nidhogg is a good friend of mine. He's a good dude. I love what they've done with it. You know, I don't know if you've even played some of the newer ones. Battle Sloths? No?
Duck games.
Yeah, play it. Overcooked? There we go. Overcooked. Okay, all right, we're getting somewhere. Yeah, man, there's a revival right now because people miss it, you know. And I think that's where the indies can actually capitalize, because the AAAs don't want to decrease the production and the look, so they're not doing split screens, they're not doing co-op. So I think that's where the indies can really focus a lot of their time and attention. And it doesn't have to always be the battle scenario like Nidhogg or Towerfall. I mean, there's Castle Crashers type games, you know what I mean, that there's not enough of. So I would definitely say yes, a very good approach. And it's cheaper, but when you do a budget, just letting you know, it's cheaper to keep it local and not online. Some publishers will go, ooh, online, new IP, that's expensive.
We're doing it local. We're right now making a game.
Okay.
It's Japanese chess.
Yep.
We're making that.
Okay.
We're
Yeah,
making
just keep it.
a battle version of that.
Keep your expectations on the first. It's a new IP. Keep your expectations real on the first one. Meaning, Don't worry about online. Go local. I mean, you played Enter the Gungeon? Enter the Gungeon? Okay. There's no online there. That game was a huge success. You know, it was very cheap because the online factor wasn't there. Go ahead.
So with the recent advancements in, gaming technology, how much the industry has grown over the past 30 years or so, how important do you think the gaming industry is going to be for our future?
Oh, wow. That's a depth. That's depth.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah. So he's asking, actually a question I like, honestly. How important is the gaming industry going to be for our future? So, my disclaimer, biased opinion. I think unbelievably important. I'm an advocate of tech. I'm an early adopter of every tech. I believe if I don't know it, I want to buy it and I play with it to understand it. So I don't actually, and this is, I'm in a school, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm not an advocate of anything paper. You know, I most of my house is very much digital, iPads, all these things. I really just am very much of that mindset. So taking that in times 10, I believe there's some fantastic potential for virtual reality and augmented reality to do surgeries. I really believe there's a lot of potential in there. I've played with a lot of the tech. I mean, HoloLens. I don't know if anyone got a chance to use mixed reality. Mixed reality is fairly new. No? Yes? Yes, you have? Mixed reality is kind of like HoloLens. It's new. It's I don't think Microsoft actually showed it at PAX, but they showed it at the pre-show at the Microsoft campus on Thursday night, if anyone was there. No? Okay, never mind.
Actually,
Okay,
I think they had it in like a little secret booth back behind the big.
Did they have it at PAX?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
Way back
quite-
up on the 6th floor, like hidden away.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even know that. But yeah, so I'm a big advocate for it. Absolutely. I think more and more as time goes. I mean, look at where we've come. School was all textbooks and paper. Now it's all tablets and digital boards instead of chalkboard. It's just going to get more, especially in Seattle, the land of engineers. You know. So yeah. No, I mean that's why my kid at 15 goes to a lot of my pitch meetings. He actually, I actually bring my kids to pitch meetings at 15 and 11 because the developer finds it should find it very important that he's getting a 37-year-old opinion, a 15-year-old opinion, an 11-year-old opinion. And like for example, the 15-year-old now, because of all that, because of all the things I've involved him in, is a teacher's aide in game design at 15. Yeah. So I involve them as much as I can. I don't have any friends. I don't have time for work. Outside of work, my boys are my only friends. Yeah, go ahead.
So you brought up the fact that you bring your children to these pitch meetings, and you gave us a quick rundown of your work history from 2007 onwards. You have an 11-year-old and a 15-year-old. That means you had those kids when you made that change into the gaming industry. That actually is incredible to me. You got involved in so much.
That's why I'm 37 with gray hair.
Yeah, but how did you find the time and the money to be able to move kids that young at the time and manage that? They're schooling, they're medical, all that.
Yeah.
It's kind of important to me.
Well, that's why I said I will always help where possible because I do not want anyone to do what I did. No joke. So his question was, he did the math, and I didn't really go into it because it was a very tough time. How in the world did I, in 2007, reinvent myself and do what I did with what was, do the math. 15-year-old, my God, I can't even do the math. How old is my kids then? One's 6 and one's 1, I think.
This might not sound very important to you, but we've had a lot of lunchbox speakers who come in, because I know that not a lot of y'all have kids, but I also know that a lot of you do, right? And I know a lot of you are married and have families, and that work-life balance, like how you figure this out when you're trying to, as Justice say, make your mark and get out there and do it and have a life at the same time, that's a legit question.
So that was a really good question, and I applaud you for figuring that math out because I couldn't even do it. But yeah, I had a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old when I did. It was not easy. It was not easy at all. It was atrocious. I didn't get much sleep. I battled and battled and battled. I would literally email, like I said, people I remember I came from the investment world. So that is the one advantage I had. So I kind of made some good money at an early age because I did a lot of business negotiations, all these various things from stock, all that kind of stuff. I didn't always look like this, man. I had a business suit and tie. I had to, that industry. But so I poured some money, and whatever money I had left, I lost a lot too because everyone lost a lot that that year. So even though I had money, it wasn't a lot of money anymore. But I used what money, and I used it intelligently by meeting people. Because remember, I told you, it's not who you know. I mean, I could sit right here and spit off names. That's awesome. But can they spit off mine? Yet they can now. 10 years ago, they couldn't. So I would literally go email everyone. Hey, I'll buy you lunch if you just listen to me. I'll buy you lunch if you just listen to me. I'll buy you lunch if you just listen to me. And no joke, it kind of was a bummer. But only 2 out of maybe every 10 got back to me. Now, they buy me lunch. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah. Go ahead.
So someone like you who's very extrovert and outgoing, you probably have good skills at finding what you need and getting that. What about the people who are introverted and have really hard time just even like checking out like game jams and all that stuff?
So he's asking, how do the introvert approach things in the way that I have as an extrovert, right? Correct?
Can we hire?
Yeah, I can't take on any more work, so no. But in all honesty, it's you have to still come out. You have to come out and teach yourself. You don't have to turn into an extrovert. You don't have to do that, because you should never change who you are. But sometimes you have to adapt to play the game. And while you don't have to come out exactly extrovert or introvert, like me, but you got to play the game. In all honesty, I'll be giving all of these disclaimers and secrets that's actually recorded, which is a bummer. So, in all honesty, here are the things that I like to do with my life, and this makes up my life. I like working. I'm a workaholic, and I love what I do. The problem is I made my passion my job, so I never know when to shut off. That is a problem. Another thing, I'm a big gym nut. Big gym nut. I'm a big gym nut. The other thing is I game as much as I can, either for work or for play. I'm pining to play some Destiny after last night, and I just haven't had a chance. And then the other thing, the fourth thing and final thing, are my boys and my best friends. Whenever I have time, I'll even coach baseball, because I used to play baseball and football. So outside of those 4 things, you'd be surprised, I don't like doing anything else. I don't like going to parties. I don't like going to any of that stuff. But a lot of times, if you can't and use that social skill for you, that's when I go back to what I said earlier, leave your mark. You don't need a social skill to leave your mark. Your work ethic and what you've done in the past should speak for itself. So if you really can't come out and add those kind of elements and play the game, just make sure your work is damn awesome. And that should speak for itself.
So when an indie studio or a student project comes out to you, what do publishers, or what would you look for? What type of community do you want that game that they've been working on to have before they come to you? Or how does it help out?
So the question is, do I look for a built-in community of an indie game coming to me?
Yes.
No, because a lot of people don't have a built-in community, because a lot of times the indies and a new IP. So, and if they don't, what I'll look for is the genre. How hot is the genre? When I'll use stuff like Steam Spy, we were talking about earlier, to kind of measure the popular genres. Like roguelikes are great, but it's like, okay, now a lot of people are starting to do roguelikes. Or, now what you're going to look for as a publisher is what makes this roguelike different than a roguelike. Whereas 2 years ago, you were just looking for roguelike. You didn't care. You know what I mean? So a lot of indie games will be beautiful. And I think, in my opinion, I actually don't like calling them indie games, AAA games, AAA games, all that kind of stuff. I do it because of work. But as a gamer, a game is a game is a game is a game. I can feel the same thing I can feel for an indie that I can feel for a AAA if it's made with love. So, you know what I mean? So I don't really classify it that, but yeah, we still do. You look for the community of the genre if the community of the game is a brand new IP.
You mentioned that you work with Devolver Digital. Currently.
Yeah. Good Shepherd is kind of owned by Devolver, so I kind of still work with Devolver. Yeah.
You were around when Hotline Miami came out.
I joined the Devolver. His question was, what is my association to Devolver still in some way? Devolver Digital owns Good Shepherd, so that's really kind of how it is. And when I started at Devolver, it was right before Shadow Warrior.
Okay.
So Shadow Warrior. So after Hotline Miami, before Shadow Warrior.
Because I was only curious because I had heard through studying the game itself, Hotline Miami, that it was only made by 2 guys.
Hotline Miami is indeed only made by 2 guys.
So was
And the band that actually made the awesome soundtrack is called Magic Sword. And anyone see the new Thor trailer? That's Magic Sword. Did you know that? That means we'll now never be able to hire them on a gig because their rate just went so high. But yeah, so it was only 2 guys, and Magic Sword played the score. And Magic Sword is phenomenal. They played our E3 party.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We have time for one more question.
Oh, sorry. I'll answer. I'll stand. And if you have more questions, I'll stay
Out
behind.
the hallway so we can clean.
Yeah, not a problem.
How hard would you say it is to get into industry with stuff like tattoos or piercings, colored hair, etc., that type of thing?
Have you seen my arms?
I know.
So her question, and that's great, is how hard is it to get in the industry with piercings, hair, all that kind of stuff. So, in all honesty, I took out all my piercings before I joined this industry, so I had a bunch a long time ago. But I still am an avid tattoo supporter. Big surprise.
Don't try to apply at Disney.
Yeah.
It won't take any.
Yes.
Anything like that.
It really depends on the path you want to actually go. You know, I'm an avid tattoo supporter. I'm also an avid supporter of never compromising yourself. You have one life, last I checked. I'm not compromising myself. I already did. And I lost everything, and I had nothing to show for it, so why the hell am I going to do it now? So, I mean, I have a tattoo appointment next week, right here. So my point being is, it depends on your path. If you want to go the very corporate route, such as more Disney, EA, stuff like that, you might have some difficulties, depending on what you want to do. I know the community manager for EA, and he's sleeved. He's sleeved. You know, the game industry is becoming more open-minded, but with a couple companies such as Disney that is still not allowing that too much. So I'd say you're fine, honestly.
Great. Oh, let's give Justin a hand.
I just want to do one more shameless promotion because I can't do it without your support. If you guys want and believe in the innovation of all these programs that I'm trying to write and bring the world right now in North America, check out DreamHack Denver and submit your game to the Student Showcase or Gaming Pitch. It's free. I mean, really all you do is get selected, and the only thing you have to pay for is getting there. That's it. So they're programs built to help you. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So that's all.
Awesome.
Cool. That's a good one. We can help.